always tell everybody, Knoxville Raceway taught me how to go fast. Huset's taught me how to race. Because when you go there, you hear the terms fighter pilots in the gymnasium. That's what it was like.
Green flag in the air.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Hot Lappin' with Lanman. Today we are going to be doing episode 5. Have a really great guest in here. This guy has got 11 Knoxville Raceway championships. He's won the Knoxville Nationals 4 times. He's won 122 World of Outlaw races. He was the 2001 World of Outlaw points champion. He's got 3 track titles at Huset Speedway, along with 42 victories racked up there. He's got a resume that just goes on forever and ever, and I'm excited to have Danny Lasoski. He'll be joining us here in just a little bit. Want to just remind everybody that I'm available out there on Facebook and Twitter. We're also on Spotify. We're on Apple iPod. We're on YouTube. We're on all the major broadcast companies out there for podcasts. Would appreciate it if you can't join me on Facebook or one of the others. If you would follow along on those, go ahead and click the follow button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Share this with all your friends. Like I said, always, it's going to help me out a ton, and just getting those viewers up there always helps. So without any more hesitation, let's see if we can get Danny Lasoski in here with us. All right, and so we are visiting today with Danny Lasoski. Danny, you and me have been good friends for a really long time. Never in the day did I dream I'd have you on a podcast with Hot Lappin' with Lanman, but welcome to the show.
Lanny, thank you very much. Just think about it. Hot lapping with Lan. How about that? I'm going back in. I'm ready.
That's super cool. You and me go back a very long ways back to when I was a professional fan in the stands and probably had one or too many lattes during the races. I knew it all by the end of the night, but I was probably the number one Danny Lasoski fan back in the late 80s and early 90s. So yes. It's really cool how this has come full circle that now I'm going to sit here and visit with you for an hour or so.
Well, let's do it. I'm ready for you.
All right, so first of all, a lot of people know Danny Lasoski from Dover, Missouri. I'm willing to bet that you are not sitting in Dover, Missouri right now.
I am sitting in Ocala, Florida, with the sunshine at 84 degrees, and I'm loving every bit of it.
And you have just so everybody knows, you have a full-time residence down there. You have a house down there.
Yeah, I don't live in Missouri anymore. I moved down here probably 8 years ago, and love every minute of it. My wife Debbie is a nurse practitioner, and we got 6 grandkids, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Do you still have a shop or anything back in Missouri?
Nope. Sold everything I had. I moved when I got out. I went out. The only thing I have there is the house that we built for my dad and my mom, and he still lives there. And obviously, my son Landon still lives there. So it works out really good. I told him I'll come see him when it's 90 there.
That's what I'd do too. That sounds like a really good plan. Danny Lasoski obviously started his career somewhere. You were a probably young whippersnapper that thought he might take a shot at something. Tell me about a 1969 Camaro that you might owned in high school.
I was the shit in high school. 69 Z28 Camaro. All the girls loved me then. So we did that. It was, my dad built the motors at 302 4-speed, and it was badass. And I decided that I went racing with my uncle Tom Corbin, my dad, Curtis Evans, all these guys, and I just told him, I said, hey, I want to try driving, Dad. And he told me, he said, listen, he said, if you want to try, he said, I'm not going to spend a dime, but I will work every single second with you. If you want to work around the clock, 6 a.m. to 6 a.m., he said, I'm right there with you. But the second that you want to go chase girls or go drinking, I'm out. I'm going in the house. So it's up to you if you want to do this. So Lanny, I sold my Camaro. I sold everything I had to be able to buy my first car. And voila.
And what kind of race car was that?
It was a home built something. I don't even know what it was. I know it had gun barrels for Nerf bars and bumpers, and it was heavy. And we actually, no kidding, it was behind Bill Curtis's garage in Kansas City, and it had corn stalks up through it. And I had to chop them out to get it out. And my dad and I put it all together, and that's what I started with.
And I believe that was at Salina County Speedway. Does that sound correct?
Saline County Speedway, Marshall, Missouri. That's where I started.
And do you remember your first win? Did you ever win in that thing?
I did. And the good part is when I started, I I don't know the number, but it was either 7 or 8 rookies. So they had had a thing called a rookie race every night, and I won 8 of 9 of them. And that's
So you're the one that made the rule that you got to move up at a certain point in your
I
career.
guess so. But yeah, we got really lucky.
So you guys raced around locally there, and then I want to say I think it was in 1984. A guy named Bob Denny
Bob Derry.
or Bob Derry. Oh yeah. I can't even read my own handwriting. That was did you get a ride with them, or how did that one go?
Well, my uncle Tom Corbin, years prior, I went racing with him all the time. It was a dairy ready mix car from Macomb, Illinois. And Bob owned the car, and Tom drove it. Well, I got to be really good friends with Bob and Carolyn. And when Tom moved on, he called me one winter and he said, "Listen, do you ever thought about driving at Knoxville?" I said, "Well, I'd love to." And he goes, "Well, I don't want to run Knoxville, and that's it." 1984. He said, "Come get my car." And I mean, this is the middle of January. My dad and I drove to Macomb, Illinois, and here he has a dually with an enclosed trailer, Lanny. An enclosed trailer back in '84. Can you believe that?
Big
And
stuff.
he had a motor in the car and one spare Gertie, and brought it. We put it, it was basically together. We just got it ready to go and went to Knoxville for my very first time for a season. I think it was, you can go back. I don't know if it's June 4th or June 7th of the first year I won my first race there in '84.
And did you only run Knoxville that year?
No, I ran my own car like at I-70 Speedway and around the Midwest. But Mr. Derry, I just ran his car at Knoxville solely. So I had to be at Knoxville every Saturday. But any other race, I had my own car.
And you had a sprint car by then also?
Yes.
Okay. So that's where the 33 car came from, isn't it?
Yeah, that was my dad's number. Yes.
Okay, and that was that's what I was going to ask you next was where the 33 came from. But I think were you the I-70 track champ that year also?
I was I-70 track champ that year. It was a pretty neat deal.
1986 comes along, and a guy named Max Rogers obviously gets a hold of you, or you get a hold of him. And I would say that was probably the start to some really good things for Danny Lasoski. Explain to us how that thing all went down.
And Bob Derry, we raced '84 and '85, and he told me at the end of '85 that he wanted to slow down. He said he was ready. And just by chance, Max Rogers was needing a driver. And I seen him one night in the pit area, and I asked him, "Man, Max, any chance I could drive your car?" And lo and behold, that winter he called me and said, "Let's do it." So in 1986, I drove his car. He had John Singer engines, and we won the championship in Knoxville that year.
Kind of your first hired gun spot there with Max.
Correct.
Yep. And so you guys ran around there for a couple of years, and something that I was just starting to realize sprint cars in my life then. I might be a little bit younger than you, I'm not sure. But we were in Jackson, Minnesota, and I think it was for their Jackson Nationals. And your car is sitting in the infield. This is the Max Rogers car, but the driver's nowhere to be seen.
I can't believe you remember that.
I do, because that, when you're a fan, you're looking for your guy. And I think you tell us how that night went down, because your car is sitting in Jackson, Minnesota, and it's like there's no driver.
Well, at that time, I was building combines in Missouri, welding up frames, and I didn't have any vacation time or anything. And that was a Friday night race.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a buddy of mine that owned a little Mooney airplane that was going to fly me up after work. So I was going to make it there in no time, flying. Well, between noon and time I got off work, a front came through and we couldn't take off. So I just hopped in my old car and we hauled ass as fast as we can go up 71 highway all the way to Jackson. Got there late.
Yeah, like 9:30, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, yeah.
I think you had to run the B main that night from the back of that.
We started dead last at the B main. I either want to run second in it to make it in.
And then in the A main, do you remember where you finished? Because I do.
I have no idea. You probably do. I don't.
Second place.
Yes, sir. Come from last.
But I always thought that there was a fog issue on that deal. I just thought it was weird, because that's a huge drive to get to where you were going.
Huge drive from there, yes. I mean, back in the day, it was a 71 highway was all 2-lane. So we did it, come in. That's kind of an Easter. I can't believe you remembered that.
I told you I have a few things up my sleeve. So yeah, absolutely. So you spent a couple years with Max Rogers, and that was, you guys, as a fan, people get used to that. And back then they were like, okay, this is just always going to last forever. But obviously they don't. You got together with a guy named Guy Forbrook. And man, what a history book you two wrote just alone. And we could have probably a lot of chapters just on in the ride, out of the ride, in the ride, out of the ride. But you guys put together a 5-year run there that was probably unmatched. And working with Guy Forbrook, what was that like? Because you guys had some great success.
We did, and Guy and I, we put this deal together with a guy by the name of Al Cole from Des Moines, and Al Cole had the engine program with Gertie Engines, and back in the day, I feel in the Midwest, we probably had one of the best engine programs in the world, and that was the good thing, the great thing about Guy Forbrook, he lived, breathed, and everything, those engines, and making sure that they ran, man, I thought they were best in the country. But we were just like two knothead brothers. We fought a lot. We raced. We had great success. We I mean, again, we were like just like you said, we were on and off a lot. But at the end of the day, when we were together, we sure won, and that's what I'm most proud of.
You guys took on Knoxville Raceway, probably with more of a passion than anybody back then. And you guys owned that place. And then there was a place called Huset Speedway that ran on Sunday nights too. And a lot of back and forth driving for not just you, but the team. But the Knoxville days back then, tell us a little bit about that, what that was like.
Well, I always tell everybody, Knoxville Raceway taught me how to go fast. Houston's taught me how to race. Because when you go there, you hear the terms fighter pilots in the gymnasium. That's what it was like. Because when you go out there, there was no escape. You had to go. And back in the day when we ran them, I think they inverted 16 or whatever it was by points. So every night you knew if you made it through your heat race, you were going to start 16th. And a lot of the nights we didn't win until the white flag lap. It took without a caution. It took a long time, but that really taught me how to run quarter miles and run aggressively and try to go aggressively and not hit anything.
Because in order to finish first, one must first finish.
Yes.
So you guys rip off some track championships at Knoxville Raceway. And they have this race back there in Knoxville in August. It's kind of a bigger race.
Yeah.
And you guys were deemed a potential threat to win that race every year. Yet there was always something that came up. And talk about, the mental state of mind that you have to have going into that race, and then expectations and results.
You're exactly right. I feel there's at least two times that I felt that we should have won and we didn't. One of them was we were rolling really good and we raced. I think it was the night before, a couple days we ran at Owatonna, Minnesota, and I flipped out of the place lead and hit a bulldozer and broke my shoulder. I feel if there's any race, any year that was going to be, that was probably going to be the year that we were going to be a pain in the ass. And the rest of the time, we were good, we weren't great, and when Guy and I got in with Big Game, the two car, we had opportunity there. We didn't seal the deal for whatever reason, but yeah, that race. If there was anyone that I wish that we could have won for Guy, would have been that one because we know that place is near and dear to both of us.
I had the Owatonna crash on my list, but the crash in Owatonna, Minnesota. I remember the news breaking, and back then we didn't have internet, we didn't have Wi-Fi, so it had to get out by word of mouth, and it had to get out by National Speed Sport News and all that other stuff. But the initial reaction for you and your family and for Guy, what was that like knowing they're not going to halt this race because I'm injured?
No, and it was devastating. I got to be honest with you because, man, I was pumped up. I couldn't wait. I knew we were ready. Everything was going good that year. I flipped out of the place, hit this bulldozer, and I still remember Brian Brown rode in the ambulance with me to where the heck they took us to Rochester.
Rochester,
And
yeah.
I remember my shoulder was hurting so bad, and he had that gas on me, so it was going to kill the pain. And my mom, dad I said, you just go. And they left me there. And they went on. And then I forget who got me, but took me to Knoxville. I was there. Kenny Schrader lined me up with a great sports doctor in St. Louis because at first thought they were going to put pins in my shoulder, but there was nothing left. My scapula would look like a jigsaw puzzle. So there was nothing they could do surgery on. And lo and behold, Dr. Hunter from St. Louis told me a thing called a TENS unit, and so they said that the first doctor said I'd be out 6 months. Well, in 30 days, I was back driving and had that TENS unit to my chest and tuned it up, and we went at. I think we won Cheaters Day that year.
Cheaters Day. Now, here's something I'm going to throw at you. A lot of people that might be watching this might not know what Cheaters Day is, but it was at the Sioux Empire Fairgrounds in Sioux Falls, which is just 10-minute drive from Huset Speedway. Big old flat half mile, running a day show. But you guys could literally do anything you wanted to your cars, and Guy was pretty good with that stuff. The big old plexiglass sideboards, big wings, and all that stuff. And tell us a little bit about running at that track, because it's no longer even exists, but you guys would show up and just sometimes wax them.
I got to be honest with you, Laney, that's still one of my favorite racetracks because the front straightaway wasn't straight; it had a curve in it. It was like a D shape down the front straightaway. And you're right, it was day race, and it was something we looked forward to every year. Guy would put the side pods on the dirt bars and a big plexiglass on the back, and it literally makes this thing like you felt like King Kong when you drove in the corner. You could just drive the hell out of it, and the thing would never slip. So it was again with the when Gertie engine, cold engines, that was an awful lot of fun to drive.
And ethanol also was just coming into the game back then. I remember there was a red flag with like 2 or 3 to go, and you guys are up front. And back then, all red flags were open red flags. And you got paid a percentage of the purse by how much ethanol you had in the tank, and they tested it after the race.
That's
and
true.
I think Forbrook probably threw another 10, 15 gallons of straight ethanol in that thing just to finish 2 laps. Does that sound familiar?
I don't know what the gallons was, but I know he did add some.
I want to jump back to the Cheaters Day thing just because I don't know that a lot of people might know this, but I think Danny Lasoski had a very, 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 very short dirt modified career.
Yeah, I drove one of those too. Yeah, you're right. I can't believe you remember that too. Holy cow! Yeah, I drove that a couple times.
And that was at the Cheaters Day race in Sioux Falls, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And
yeah.
Tell us about how that worked out.
I don't even remember it. I know you do because I don't remember.
I don't remember that, but I remember you racing it, but I have no idea how the results were.
I don't either. It must not have been good because I don't remember much of
it. So Danny Lasoski, well-known 410 racer - modified racer. We're going to have to let Schrader know about that, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so moving forward to that race we talked about in Knoxville, Iowa, in the first week of August, and the Knoxville Nationals. And you guys chased that race, and it's probably where does that race rank for you in your just the event for your annual year go around the earth? Tell me where Knoxville is for you.
Even today when I tell the guys that I help, every single race is a practice. There's only one race that means anything, and that's that second week in August, the Knoxville Nationals. Any other race you run now is just a practice race.
But every lap there is very important too.
Every lap is very important. Again, that's the mecca. That is, in my opinion, the greatest raceway, racetrack facility in America and Australia, New Zealand. No matter what, that's the place.
If you haven't been there, you just got to get there because I'll never miss the race again. I can tell you that, and most people will do that. So you spent some time with Gil Saunders then, I believe, after the Forbrook ride. A couple years with the 47 car.
1994 is when I started driving it. We won, I think that was the year we won 35 features or something like that.
I believe you won the Knoxville title that year again.
Correct.
And I don't know. And I have it here. I should probably mention this out real quick, just so people understand.
That's when I lost my nut.
Okay, so and I had that coming up, but since you led us into that, you know the health concerns of everybody, and you had a health issue there, a very scary one.
Yeah, I was driving for Gilly, and I knew something was wrong. I mean, and I wasn't married at the time. My girlfriend at the time, I said, "Hey, look, something's going on. I don't know what's going on." So I go out to the clinic, and they think that maybe I got a hernia. I said, "Okay." I raced 3 weekends prior without the crotch strap hooked up because my nut was large. It was big, and I wish they were big all the time. No, they were swelled up. I didn't know what was wrong. Well, Gooch's mom worked for a doctor in Kansas City and got me appointment on a Sunday. I went in there and he did a biopsy with a needle was about that long. It was like scariest thing I ever done. And he told me he'd come back after he did the test. He said, "Hey, I got a schedule in here. You got a tumor in your testicle." I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." And this, you got to understand, this is 1994. Things have changed a lot since. He says,
Yeah.
if this thing has went through your lymph nodes, you better get your affairs in order." Well, like, what? Yeah, I mean, I was like shocked, and I didn't want to tell. I told nobody. So I came home. He said, "I got you scheduled for 6 a.m. in the morning." So I had to go home, and I had to ask my dad to take me to Kansas City, Kansas, to the hospital. And I filled him in at a time, and he and my mom and dad is the only ones that knew at the time what was going on. And I went in at 6 and walked. Well, I stumbled out 7:30, but I had no insurance, so I couldn't stay over. So they cut it out, and hey, that's a good story on that. They cut it out, and I can remember I'm in the recovery room, and I asked the doctor prior to, because you understand I had a doctor that had a personality like dust, and I said, "Hey," I said, I want that." He goes, "You want what?" I said, "I want to keep it because my idea was I was going to freeze dry it, put a string to it, put it on Forbrook's mirror of his truck." So that's what you know. But that was a true story. But he wouldn't know. He said, "No, this has got to be sent in along." And but that's what I was going to do. I was really going to shock Forbrook with it.
That was one thing I wasn't sure I was going to touch on or not, but since you brought it up, it's open game, and what people don't realize is the drivers running around there without insurance back in the day, back in the day,
Back in the day.
and 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 you guys are in one of the most dangerous sports there is. Granted, safety's come a long ways since then, but what's that like hitting the racetrack, knowing you got to count on the racetrack insurance? Hopefully, if you get hurt there.
Honest to God, Lanny, I mean, I love this sport so much. I never gave it a second thought because this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to try to compete at the highest level and to see how far I could go, how good I could be, and if something happened to me, at least I was doing something I love to do.
Since we're talking about safety, one of the biggest advancements they have had over the last 15, 20 years are the seats. And I wanted to talk about the seat because the seat, people probably don't realize you literally feel the race car with your seat. And one thing that I was always aware of when I started paying attention to sprint cars is most guys bolt their seat in and they go race. You know, they get it, that. But you had a certain way of mounting your seat, and I believe it was cocked to the left.
It was.
And I've always often wondered, why did you run your seat the way you did? It wasn't sitting in there level. It was pitched a little bit, so you were angled when you were sitting in the car.
Well, my dad's the one. He's the one that talked me into doing it before my very first time I drove. Because you gotta understand, back in 1900 shit when I started, the shock technology is nothing. I mean, you basically had a shock. Well, when your car's going to corner, they always roll to the right, and it felt like you're going to turn over. Well, my dad always had a half-inch spacer he would put under the bottom left, tilt my seat to the left, so when I went into the corner, if the car did tilt, it felt like I was straight up, so I would drive it harder, and it just stuck. I kept it like that my whole racing career.
And then you were still very actively and successfully racing when they implemented some of these wraparound seats.
You mean
And
the pillows that these guys got now? The pillows?
yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yes.
But there was some resistance, not just from you, from a lot of the drivers that said, I can't race this way. You know, I've never felt this way. Explain to everybody what it's like going from I call them the old beer can seats. They were just basically a piece of tin you were sitting in to something that was trying to contain you.
It is, and when I like I said, going back to that Owatonna wreck, I didn't have a high back seat. I had a low back, and that's what got my back. Well, after that, Randy Hunt from Lincoln, Nebraska, built me one with just a high back on it. So I had that. But when they implemented the head neck, there's no way I could have drove with that stuff like they do today with it. Because now when they suck their helmet back in, their head doesn't move. It would vibrate. So what I did, I built my seat so it was so far away because that was the rules. It said it had to be on, or it didn't say it had to be near your head. And I'm still avid today in safety. I commend all the work's done, but I still believe that they need to do something so when people wreck, it's slow because your brain's in fluid. It slows your head down, not really stiff the way they have them right now.
you had 112 wins. Now those weren't all with Guy, but
Mhm.
112 wins alone at the Knoxville Raceway.
Mhm.
That's in the 410 cars only. That's
Mhm.
not. I don't know if you ever even raced a 360 there.
Yeah, I won a 360 Nationals as well.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is 410 wins. I made sure I checked on that.
Yeah.
Huset Speedway, 42 wins, and you didn't dabble at Huset's nearly as much as you did at Knoxville, but
Not at all.
you guys owned that place for a couple years, and 122 World of Outlaw wins, which we haven't even started talking about your World of Outlaw career yet, but we're coming up on it real quick.
Mhm.
What I'm interested to know more than anything, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but the splits with Guy and then coming back, like that one, you left them and then you went to Gilly and then you came back. Was there certain events that happened that kind of put you guys back together numerous times?
It seemed to it goes back to that brother mentality. He and I, we got along great when we got along great, and then we didn't see eye to eye. We were two bullheaded young guys that butted heads, and that's just how it was. But we were both smart enough to know when we were together, we're way better together than we were apart. So when the opportunity hit us both, hey, it didn't bother me to call him up. I mean, if I needed a ride, it didn't matter if it was available, he'd let me drive again. He didn't have to let me drive. He could have said, "No, I don't want you in the car." But sometimes the grass is not always greener on the other side. And I think we were both looking to be the best of the best. And sometimes, they run their course. Well, with us, it ran its course, came back, run its course, came back. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't change anything. I mean, that's just part of history.
1997, you jump in with a guy named Chris Black. And you guys, I think, was that your first attempt at the World of Outlaw deal for you?
No, no, that's in 1997. It was with Jim Wally, 1W car in Ohio, and I made
Okay.
it. I made it, and made it a couple months with him. Then he fired me, and then I drove Chris Black's car. Just
Okay, so
local.
that was just locally. Okay.
Yeah.
And probably one of the least successful years that you ever had probably in racing. You got to
Worst,
have those years
worst,
somewhere.
worst year. Period. End of story. Worst year.
So we're going to bottle that up and throw that one away right over the shoulder. And we're going to come into 1998. You get an opportunity with Dennis Roth, the Beef Packers team. How do you go from a worst year to a ride in one of the most elite rides there is in the country?
Well, I got fired just before the Knoxville Nationals, and Chris Black uh, was graciously let me drive his car. We ran fourth in Knoxville Nationals with Chris Black's car that we run not very much at all.
Yeah.
Well, at the excuse me, at the end of the Knoxville Nationals Saturday night, everybody gets together and has a few cocktails afterwards over in turns 3 and 4. Well, I think that's the time. I'm not sure about that. I think Randy Hannigan was driving the Beef Packers car, and Mark Ellis. I had never met Mark. I knew him, but I didn't remember. He come over and asked me. He said, "Hey, would you be interested in running the rest of the year with 83 cars?" I said, "Oh my God, really?" And I had never met Dennis, never met anybody. So I think I said, "Absolutely." I hopped in that car. The very next week, go to Fargo, and we win the race on the way to California. And that's the first time I ever hopped in the car. And then I got to meet Dennis Roth, and what a great family. Dennis Roth is, and to this day, is one of my dear friends, and I'd do anything in the world for him. And went out and met him in '98. Jimmy Carr joined the team with Mark Ellis, and I think as Brian Brown was my tire guy at the time. We started, and that was our team. We started 1998 on the World of Outlaw tour.
How did you get Jimmy Carr involved with that? Mark Ellis, you said, came to you. Was Mark the crew chief and Jimmy the car chief, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, Mark was taking care of the car before Jimmy started. And then Jimmy, we was on again with you. He had his own team, and he was between rides and everything. And I said, "Hey, Jimmy, what do you want to go do this?" And he said, "Yeah." So that's how we started.
You guys hit the ground running in '98 with the Beef Packers deal, full outlaw season. And is that your first attempt at the outlaw deal? Maybe I'm missing something, but
That's
that
my
is that.
first full year of attempting 1998.
And how did that turn out? I don't even remember that one. Do you guys remember?
I think I mean I don't know where I'd have to ask my man Bob Jones on stats. He knows all that stats, but
Yeah.
we went through the first part of the year, and I think our first win was Canandaigua, New York, and that was like in end of May or 1st of June. We didn't win a race till then, and then we started running really good, and then we roll into the Knoxville Nationals.
So 1998, the Knoxville Nationals rolled around, and you're with Dennis and Teresa and the Beef Packers, and you guys roll in there. And what are your expectations going in there?
It's the same every time. This, I'm never a guy that gets nervous but I can tell you this: the second I roll into Knoxville, Iowa, and I see the city limit sign, I get those same butterflies then as I do right now. I mean, I just that race and that racetrack is everything to me, and confidence was high going in because we had just won some races coming in, and like I told you, every race is a practice up to that race.
The original start of that A main, you get going down the backstretch, and you're actually leading going into turn 3 on that one.
Yep.
And it gets called back.
Mm-hmm.
How important do mind games matter to a guy like that? Are you sitting there frustrated, or do you know you're sitting there with a good piece?
Well, the no, I didn't. I don't get frustrated very much because at the end of the day, we can't change it. It happened. It's better to look forward than look behind. And I just knew that we had after going through 1 and 2 and down the backstretch, I knew we had a good car, and I knew from experience there that there's going to a lot of guys are going to be going to try to knock the fence down, and I knew where I wanted to be. So that's where we were at.
Back then, the World of Outlaws or Knoxville, and I think Knoxville was implementing the outlaw rules at the time. You guys actually restarted coming out of turn 2.
Correct.
Do you remember that going down the backstretch?
That's the way it should be today.
That's something I was going to ask you about too, because as you look back over things, sometimes you've tried things, then you always just go back to them. But talk about restarts coming out of turn 2, and was it a huge advantage for the leader, would you say, or how did that play out? Because there wasn't a cone. You guys just took off and let it rip. I don't think you had to follow the cone around to the front stretch.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I've told different people, and I've told some of the people in World Outlaws. In today's racing, it takes a element of surprise out of it because the leader is at a disadvantage because everybody in the grandstand, everybody home watching on Dirt Vision, everybody in the pit area, every driver in the field knows where the driver's going to take off. I said, why don't you put a little more excitement into it and have the restarts and let them go anywhere between off of turn 2 and come all the way around so you can mix it up. You can go into 3. That's my opinion. I think that the folks that's watching at home, everywhere else, and especially the driver should have the advantage for he's leading the race.
You guys keep that race going, and it's a heck of a race, actually. Sammy and you put on the race of a lifetime for many people. A lot of people will say the Bobby Allen and Sammy one were better, but I would find it tough to match that A main of 1998 where you and Sammy literally went toe for toe, Duke for Duke. With a couple laps to go, you missed the bottom, I think, and Sammy gets by you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me your mental state of mind right then and there.
Oh shit! I mean, I thought I threw it all away. I mean, my stomach just locked up because you're right. I was leading, went in turns 1 and 2 and missed it. Just plain missed it. Sat there, and I thought, oh man! And he rolled around me on the outside, and I don't know if it was the lap before the white or one before. He had the lead, and we come off of turn 4, and I seen the white flag, and I just noticed he made a bigger arc on that lap for some reason, and I got a really good run down the front straightaway, and I knew that I was not going to lift for nothing on that lap, just to try to stay with him on the next corner. And he went and he missed it like I did the lap before, and got him on the very last lap. Man, how about that? Taking the white and taking the lead in 1 and 2, and coming down the backstretch and just trying to make sure that I didn't mess up 3 and 4 and come across and getting that sugar flag. I will never ever forget the feeling, never forget the excitement, and just the all around satisfaction. Hey, something that I could wanting going down the road, thinking about for my whole life is winning that race. And man, right now I get going on it because it still means that much to me.
It was fun for me to review as I was looking back over some stuff, and I didn't realize that last lap was that huge where he made the same mistake you did just 4 laps previous. And not only did you win that race, you won it by 25, 30 car lengths. That's how important it was when you stuck the bottom and got off of 2. It's like, this thing's over.
Yeah, what a time to stick it right, Lanny.
So I remember watching that, and you are rolling around the track after you take the checkered, probably 25 feet in the air, just jacked up. And I remember you beating on the cowl of that race car with your left hand.
Yes.
I think, is that all you could come up with? I mean, you're so ecstatic, you just want to jump around with everybody.
I wanted to thank it for doing it for me because it did it. The engine, and then that's the time that I turned around and did the Polish victory lap. I'm the first one that's ever done that.
Yeah, and you did. That car today, you might not know this, I'm sure you probably do though, is sitting at Dennis Ross at the Beef Packers shop up on top of above like the bathrooms in the office area to this day. I just
last October, Lanny.
You did.
Yeah, I got to pace the field out at the Dennis Roth Classic at the Outlaw race in Tulare. I got to get back in the car and drive it.
What was that like getting in that car? You know, it's, what is it, 98? You're talking almost 30 years later.
Hey, had my same seat in it, same seat belts, everything. It was first of all, I want to thank Todd Ventura for asking me to do it. It was such an honor to do it, and I hope I get to go do it again because it brought back so many memories.
And that's what made me even think about a couple things we've already talked about, is your seat being crooked and that car, because it's just ironic. I was just at Todd and Brent's shop a week and a half ago. I was out west, and the guys I were helping beat up a car a little bit, and talk about some amazing people out there hospitality-wise.
Fantastic.
And so to see that car sitting there, I was like, wow, that's the actual car that Danny did it in.
Mm-hmm.
You keep plugging along with Beef Packers, and you were together with them for 3 years, if I'm correct. You guys won 32 World of Outlaw wins, had some great success, and then an opportunity comes along probably that a guy just can't turn down.
My man, Tony Stewart. I think we're at the Chili Bowl and just sitting around bullshitting like we always do. And he said, what are you going to do? And that's just what he got. He was in the cup really good. He was going good, you know. And I said, man, Tony, I said, all I have is my seat and my helmet bag. That's all I own. He goes, well, what do you want to do? Because he and I have grown up the same way. They've slept in the back of cars and done it the hard way. And I said, well, what I'd like to do is have my own team, control my own destiny, and see how far I can go in this sport. That way I have no excuses. Well, this guy wouldn't do that, or that guy wouldn't do it. I wanted to see what I could do. And lo and behold, he knew a guy by the name of Jim England from JD Byrider, and Stu Murray that I knew from working. And between that, Tony and all of us, all three put together, we put a team together and started out 2001 with Tony Stewart Motorsports, and turned into Tony Stewart Racing. And look at it now. My God. I mean, it was, I can't thank him. I can't thank him enough for what he done for my career and get me going. He got me the opportunity to run the World of Outlaws and win a championship, Knoxville Nationals, three more of those, the opportunity to run IROC. I mean, the list goes on and on for the doors that he had opened for me. And he knows how much I appreciate him.
The thing about Tony Stewart that most people don't realize is this guy is a racer's racer. So he gets the emotion that you're going through sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And he knows me well. He knows I am bullheaded, and then he knows he knows how what this sport means to me, how hard we work at it. And for us, you know, we joked about it before, because in 2001 we built the race team, my new home, my new shop, won the Knoxville Nationals and the championship in the same year.
Knoxville Nationals 2001, which was where I was going next, is another great race there. And something else people didn't realize back then that probably helped a guy out quite a bit was during the A mains, lapped cars stayed in position when the yellow flag came out.
Mm-hmm.
I think you and Mark are racing back then. I'm not sure.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about what that 2001 Knoxville Nationals.
Again, I knew we had a really good car. I mean, the thing was unbelievable stuck, and I didn't know how close Mark was to me, but I looked up at the board. I can remember with a few to go, and there was a caution, and I knew he was. It's the board just showed he was second. Had no idea there was 3 or 4 lap cars, and man, when I watched the video afterwards, that thing was rolling. And again, a dream come true, Lanny. 2001, winning the Knoxville Nationals with my man Stewart. It was giving him his first Knoxville Nationals. So it was such an honor as well.
One other thing I wanted to talk about at the Knoxville Nationals is they brought up some interesting things when I was listening. Back then, we had, not we, well, I was kind of out a little bit, but the racing world had options for racing tires. And I know for a fact, just because I was paying attention to some of the video I was watching tonight, you had a 12 right rear on when you won in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about tires and tire compounds and options back then before we had these regulated tires.
But it would, again, we had the option. Goodyear brought their best tire, and Neil from Hoosier brought their best 12. Well, the I feel in my situation, it wasn't the right rear; it was the left rear. We had a D10 on the left rear, and everyone in the sprint car world knows D10 is Hoosier's softest tire. And in order to make it live the 30 laps it takes to win the Knoxville Nationals, you had to make sure you didn't abuse it. So I had to make sure that I kept the left rear in the moisture as long as I could and not burn it off running the top. So it worked 2001, 2003, and 2004.
Taking care of the left rear tire is pretty easy. No, I'm not going to make it sound like it's easy. For a guy like Daniel Lasoski, otherwise known as the catfish?
Yeah, that's what Stewart gave me the nickname.
Yeah. Running around the bottom has been a moneymaker for you. And that's where the left rear tire rolls around.
That's
what kind of discipline does it take to run that line at Knoxville?
It's twice as hard to run the bottom than it is the top. And everybody's going, what do you mean? Well, not anybody, but most guys, can run around Knoxville wide open and run against the curb and just hold it wide open. Well, when you run the bottom and run it correctly, you have to run both feet and be able to be, there's a place that if you get in too hard, you miss the bottom, you sit there. So the concentration factor is second to none.
The Knoxville Nationals, you've won around the bottom, except for 2004. I thought, what do you mean, crawfish? You hammered the top of that racetrack for the last 20 laps. Yeah. You might have gone into protect mode on the last lap, where you kind of slid yourself there.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like...
shock fell off.
What's that?
I had to let for shock fall off. That's why I did that.
Okay. Yeah, and that was 2004. Was that the last... No. Was that the last one that you won there with the shock off?
Well, the one that you're talking about, it looked like I was a windshield wiper because I knew something was wrong with it. And when they dropped the green, it was like a green-white checker, and I think Donnie was running second. And I knew that the only way he's going to pass me is probably knock me out of the way because I went left to right all over the place because I knew something. So I just blocked for 2 laps.
Jimmy Carr was an awesome crew chief for you, so there's no discredit here when I have to ask the question. The left rear shock was obviously loose from the torsion arm. Did it fall off or did the stud break?
Stud broke.
Okay. So There we go. That's always been something, that I've wondered about, and it was a cool race to watch. But it also showed that Daniel Lasoski can run the top no other at Knoxville Raceway. Does the bottom ever wear out, at Knoxville? It seemed to me like I was watching and paying attention to that one where you hammered the cushion. And I'm looking at the racetrack, and it looked like the bottom had kind of worn out.
It was gone. Bottom was gone, so you got to move wherever it takes to go. And just lucky enough, Jimmy gave me a really good car. I could run around there wide open, and it was rolling pretty good.
Back then, because I was paying attention, this day and age at Knoxville, these guys will hang their left front on that berm. Get the left front actually up elevated and pin that right rear so they can just hammer it all the way around the corner. I didn't see any of that back then. Does that have anything to do with track configuration, how the infield is and the berm is at Knoxville? Because that's changed a little bit over the years also.
I feel it has a little bit to do with that, but I also feel that when we had the wider Hoosier tires, we had more grip on the right rear. And in my opinion, that's what we need to go back to because it let the driver have more flexibility on driving different places on the racetrack, not depending on the air that we do today. With all the dirty air today, you're pretty committed. You better hit the right line or you're going to be sitting out in the middle.
Dirty air is a big thing these days. And wing technology was just coming around probably back then when you were really smoking everybody on a consistent basis, not just in Knoxville, but everywhere. Do wing rules matter these days? I believe they do, but I'm wondering from an expert like you that sat behind the wheel, sat behind dirty air, known the difference between good air, What can we do to get that thing opened up a little bit more?
Again, this is my opinion only. I mean, I feel 1,000,000%. The top wings 5x5, that's fine. Utilize letting us move the wing boards and everything. But the biggest thing that I feel personally that to help racing, you need to be able to move the nose wing farther forward, and it costs the teams nothing to be able to do that. And I feel that would help in dirty air to let the guys move around left or right a little bit
Expl-
better. I've tried.
ex-
I've tried to talk to the guys, and nobody really wants to listen to me. But that's my opinion because I've done it before. I know how much of a difference it is.
That's what I say. Explain what that would do for the standard fan like me, or the people that are listening. What would moving that nose wing out accomplish?
It just puts more stability and steering power in your front end. Let's say that you can move the nose wing out another 3 inches. That's huge for balance of your car. Yeah, when you can move the top wing back, your nose wing forward, it just makes your car stuck where you can drive it more places.
It's interesting stuff. There's lots of stuff technology wise that do you have any other things that come to mind that you think could help the sport? And I know we're getting off topic because I want to talk a little bit more about your career, but you kind of brought it up, so it's a good time to ask. Right now, I think sprint car racing is great in some aspects, but I think the racing is a little lackluster, and I think the cars are all too good. My opinion only. So I'm asking you, what are your thoughts on that? And if so, what can we do to get it back?
Again, right now, you're right. The cars and the talent, the talented drivers, the equipment they can buy, the engine program, everybody is. I mean, it's unbelievable how close everybody is. So you're going back, like I've told you. In my opinion, is let you be able to do some things with the nose wing. Um, maybe again, it goes going back to the tire situation. Maybe if Hoosier would build, you know, going back to the little construction difference on the right rear and left rear, the way it used to be, where guys could move around. I think that would be huge. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I know they're trying to equal it out so the racing. I mean, obviously the racing is good no matter what, but I just think it could be better.
It's of my belief right now too. The tires don't wear out like they used to. You don't see your comers and your goers. I think the tire it's not too hard, but I don't know. Maybe it's just too good of a product.
I I like to have options. I mean, I wish we had a really really soft one so the guys can manage their tires and have an advantage. That give a crew chief like me now options to, hey, is my guy somebody that's going to knock the fence down, or is my guy going to be 2 footing around the bottom, and give an option to win. I the comers and goers are exactly right. I think we need to make options to tire compounds.
So you run with TSR for 5 years. You guys get 96 wins between you. You get 3 Knoxville Nationals. You're the 2001 World of Outlaw point champion. Did you ever imagine you'd be a World of Outlaw point champion?
I wished for it an awful lot and thought about it, man. That was a huge goal, but to be able to do it is such an honor. And today it's near and dear to my heart. I can't thank Jimmy, Tony, all the crew guys that worked their tail off. Paul Kissler building us great engines, and again, it was something I'll never forget.
You were running Mopar engines back then.
Not the first one, not in '01.
Not in '01.
No.
Okay, so let's go to 2003 and 2004. And that's
Right.
come, I wrote down even a question mark. Mopar? And I'd forgotten about that because I saw the big M on your fire suit. And then
Yeah.
who could miss the big M on the nose wing?
Yeah.
But what brought you to Mopar? And tell us a little bit about that transition as to what was going on there.
Oh yeah, well, the opportunity was brought to Tony and I were switching to Mopar. Mopar wanted to get involved with sprint car racing. Paul Kissler was willing to do the R&D, uh, and we put it together. And Tony at that time had a non-wing sprint car team at a midgets, and it got to be Mopars all the way through. And we got to be honest with you, I set a lot of track records with them. Think they were really good when they come out, and Chevrolet had to do a little work to catch up.
Mark Kinzer and Carl ran Mopars also too. And I'm just wondering, was this the same time or was this before Carl got to the Mopars or after?
About the same time, because Gary Stanton was doing Marks and Carl's, and Paul Kissler was doing ours.
Okay. 2004, you get an opportunity to race with some of the best drivers in the world. It doesn't matter what sanction they come out of or what they're driving. Back then they had an IROC series, the International Race of Champions, and this brought IndyCar drivers, NASCAR drivers, sprint car drivers, drag racers all together to compete in equally prepared cars. And you get that opportunity. Talk a little bit about that experience.
That was a dream come true, Laney. I mean, we got to be able to drive that race and be able to win Texas was unbelievable. I think you still see my trophy right there, IROC trophy.
I can see it now. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really neat, and you know, all the path was led by Tony. Tony talked Jay Signori into saying that hey, I could actually drive pavement, and had the help of Dave Marcus coach me. Unbelievable! That was just one of the neatest things I've ever done in my life.
Going back to you drove for the Beef Packers for 3 years, and then the next story you're telling me is you had a seat and an idea. What happened with the Roth deal to end that one?
I just went to Dennis and told him. I said, "Look, Dennis, this is something I want to do." I gave him, well, heck, it was when we knew we were going to do it. It was 6 months notice. I said, look, I'm going to finish the year out, but Tony and I are going to put our own team together. I just want to come to you man to man and tell you this is what I do. And there's nothing against you. It's just something that I want to do personally. He totally understood and said if there's anything he could ever do to help me, uh, just call him. And then when Tony decided to move everything to Indy and then we split, I went right back to Dennis after that.
You just answered the next question.
Yeah.
You get back together with the Beef Packers for 2006, 2007. 23 more wins. So obviously things are still going good there. Do you have your same crew there, or is it different for those 2 years?
No, wait, that was just Mark Ellis.
Okay, just Mark.
Yeah.
There was also a thing that came along in 2006 called the NST, which a lot of people probably don't remember. I forgot about it till I was just doing a few things on you. But the National Sprint Tour, and you were actually the 2006 champion for the National Sprint Tour. Talk to us just a little bit about that and help refresh my memory a little bit how that all went down.
Well, it was just, you know, again, it's no different than the World of Outlaws and High Lanman now.
Yeah.
All of us, not all of us, but you know, Steve Kinzer was behind it big, and we thought we weren't getting a fair shake. And you know, people go through this all the time. You know, Ted Johnson was doing a phenomenal job, and Fred Brownfield had a vision that we were going to do it, and we thought we had a really good deal going, and the bad accident with Fred kind of took care of that. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, you know, the World of Outlaws, it's a hard brand to go against, and you know, High Limit is seeing that now, but they got two good products, and we'll see what happens.
Then that's what a lot of us want. We just want sprint car racing to thrive. So kudos to that. You did a couple years there with them, and then 2008. Hey, Guy, are you on the phone, or is he on the phone with you?
No, he actually called me. He called me and he said, "Hey, what do you got going for next year?" And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He says, "Well, I got the car with Todd Queering with Big Game," and he said, "We are wanting to race." I said, "Well, okay." I think I forget what year it was. Into '7. He said, "Let's go race at Chillicothe, Ohio." So we went and gave it a trial deal, and we ran really good. Next year, we put it together, and I think that's when the new series that Todd was going to come out with.
The NSL. I think that was
we won the Knoxville Championship, NSL Championship. The next year, we won the Knoxville Championship and NSL.
All right. So you raced with Guy, and I forgot that was Todd Queering. And
Yes.
is this right when Todd was getting into the sport?
No, he had raced with Terry McCarl prior to that.
Okay.
He was back in full tilt with us.
Okay. So you guys had good success then. 2009 and 10, Lonnie Parsons, kind of a guy from the Knoxville area, rings you up, and you're back on the World of Outlaw tour. You guys get 6 wins. Talk a little bit about how that deal came together and how that went for a couple years.
Oh, it was great. Lonnie gave me a call, and he was getting together with Barry Jackson, and Barry was doing his own cars, JEI cars. And, it was a good opportunity for us to get both of us together, and we had really good success for a couple of years. So really thanked him for letting us give an opportunity to do that.
And then 2015 and 2016, I know I'm missing a couple years in between there. Those might have been just kind of set aside years.
Yeah, I had my own car, and then got to going with Mark Birch, racing his car.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and again, Mark done a phenomenal job. Built his own engine. He's just a great, and not only a great friend, but a really good crew chief that doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion.
Mark Birch has done a lot for racing that people don't understand too behind the scenes. He does a lot of goodwill things. He's given guys opportunities, and he funds 99% of that right out of his own pocketbook.
He funds 100% out of his own pocket. He he's a CPA by trade, but I'm telling you, what a guy. And he's one of the guys that if I could have had the stars line up, I wish back in the day I could have attempted a serious program. Him being my crew chief, and him and I racing together back in the day. I think we'd have won a lot of races.
Yeah, I know you would have. That's for sure. I always liked Mark. 2015 and 16, you are back together. You win a couple NSL titles. You win your 10th and your 11th Knoxville regular season championships. What car were you in that year?
That was big game car.
But that was still back with that was with Quiring and those guys then.
Yes.
Okay, so that's your last title. Something that I never researched, so I'm going to have to ask you here. Probably not a question a guy wants to answer much, but what was your last year of actually where you were committed to driving a race car?
17, I think.
2017, and I remember you showing up at some races with your own equipment.
Yep.
A one-man band sometimes.
Yep.
And trying to keep going, but also knowing that you're smart enough to say, hey, I've got the talent to do this, but I might not have the resources and the manpower to do this right. Yeah. Explain that a little bit. What comes into that as you realize, and maybe you didn't realize isn't the right word, but you're on the backside of your racing career.
And that was hard to look in the mirror and decide that, because for myself, I thought, even right now, I've got the desire, but Father Time catches up with you. And I was doing everything, basically on my own, driving a truck, taking it there and racing it. I knew that that was not a good way to go. And at the end of that year, I forget where I was at, Gary Selzy introduced me to Mason Daniel and his dad in California, and kind of put a deal together where I was going to try to drive a new venture in my racing. Was I wanted to be a consultant / driver coach to young guys, something that's not out there, that I could take some of the things that I've learned the hard way and straighten out learning curves for younger guys. And that's what I tried. I think I started in 18 with that.
How does that work for you? Being a driver that knows what to do, has been very successful in knowing what to do, and then obviously everybody's got to start somewhere, so it's no discredit to Mason Daniels or any of the other young drivers you've worked with. Is it frustrating? Do you get joy out of seeing the accomplishments?
Well, I'll back it up. I started with him, and he didn't have a lot of experience and raced a couple of years. And then I jumped from that. I said, well, I don't really know what I want to do. Then Brian Brown called me, and I helped him for a year and a half. And then my wife went through a little health scare, and I just sat back. I said, whoa. I said, I've done this my entire life. I do not want to be some race and something happened to one of my family. So I actually got away from racing for if you would look back in the time, I got away from her maybe a month and a half, and she looked at me and said, "You got to do something. this ain't working. You being home all the time." So that's when I decided to start my consulting company, and I said, you know what, I want to put together something no one's done, is being able to help the younger guys find some people that need help to see where they are, because I have 3 categories: raw talent like baby Jesus, teachable talent like I have, and no talent. So I want to see what categories you fit in. That's how. So I started my company, and it just has grown beyond imagination right now, that how many people not only want my help, but that have called, and I've tried to help, and just the gratification of actually helping somebody and then winning their first race or a couple races. It's something I'm enjoying now, and that's what I'm doing right now.
explain to us just a little bit what your company actually does from start to finish, or what the options are.
Yeah, well, I got some options. I have a consulting company that I started that actually I'll consult over the phone, and I'd like to keep it with I travel a couple of weeks of a month to the racetrack and help them at the racetrack. I try to put a strategic schedule together where I can help 4 or 5 different clients for what I have. So if anybody's looking for something right now, I'm helping Chris Martin. Lance Moss there from North Carolina, but mainly with Chris right now and through the Midwest and trying to get him going. He's done so much better than we anticipated so quickly, and I'm looking for big things for him.
So how would somebody get what's the best way for people to contact you if they're looking to do that?
Just give me a call on my cell phone, 314-422-6597, and we'll see what we can do for you.
You heard it right there, folks. He gave out his cell phone number. So, Danny, all 7 of my listeners are probably going to be calling. And I'm just kidding with that. But that, like I said, that's an interesting thing to be able to do that, because that gives you the ability to travel and get out. How do you determine if you're going to the racetrack with these guys versus phone coaching and things like that?
I race the weather. Wherever the weather looks best is where we go. That's we usually look on Monday, and with all the technology now, you can pretty much tell what it's going to be Friday or Saturday. So that's what I try to set my schedule up and see what looks the best for them. And every one of the guys that I help understand that.
Is there sometimes you tell them, hey, I'm just not going to make it. I'm not going to take a chance on coming out there.
Yeah. And then, with their vision and flow, I can watch them and help them over the phone, and they call it. It's really worked out better. And I wish something like this would have been available back in the day.
You do this, the driving coach versus let's talk about car setup, getting a car squared up, getting the basics of that. Are you throwing all of this at them, or is it on a per request?
I have all the above, Lanny. I have it's set up where I can just be consultant only, or halfway in the middle, or everything. I can come to your shop and show you everything. I have a whole portfolio that you can get whatever you want.
That's something that I was not.
One-stop shop, buddy. One-stop shop.
One-stop shopping, baby, with Danny Lasoski. So, Danny, we know where you're at today, and I just want to pick your brain a little bit about some of the things that have changed or are happening right now out there in the world of sprint car racing, because there's nothing like talking to an expert. We already touched a little bit about what we can do to make the racing better. Rules in general. Tell me a little bit about that. We touched on restarts. We touched on some other things. One thing that I was talking to somebody, just Brett Marks last week, every red used to be an open red. Thoughts on some of those things?
I'm torn between that, because if you could control, I think on a red you can do anything you car you want, not just fuel stop, not whatever, if they open it up. But I also, man, I know we're selling a product that means we got to go. We can't have a 5-minute open red and waiting for everybody to get off the track, because no one wants to see a fuel stop. Nobody wants to see anything like that. But if there is a crash, I think if it's going to be a crash, it's going to take a couple minutes to fix, open it up so a guy can put fuel in it, so we don't have a fuel issue or anything like that. I see nothing wrong with that. But again, it's no matter, there's pros and cons to all of it, so I see both sides.
Seat belts coming loose, general rules. People are smart.
That's right.
Is there a way to police that one?
No, you'd have to have the video camera on his lap. Hey, half the rules in the World of Outlaw rule book is some that I've wrote myself. I love the gray area, and I think it needs to have a little more of that flexibility, so you can do the work in the shop and make your car a little bit better. Obviously, that's how Carl Kinzer got so dominant, being able to work hard in the shop and get an advantage.
Rubber down racing is something that we're seeing a little bit of, and you roll your eyes and I roll my eyes, and we all roll our eyes, because it doesn't seem like we had that much back in the day. Is it a tire thing? These things have so much horsepower? What do you think is causing some of this?
To be honest with you, why do you start the race when the sun's out? Okay, start the race an hour later when the sun's down. Prep your track, because if you're gonna stop the show halfway through the show and prep again, why don't you do it, the right way? Just let the sun go down and run your show clean through.
Exactly. So that leads me to the fact of, do we have too many classes? High Limit has gone to a single class only event. Is that going to help, you think?
I am a big, huge fan of hey, the show that people come to see is the High Limit or the World of Outlaws. That's the show. Why do you want all the other stuff? I have no idea. I don't know. I know why promoters do it, but in my opinion, that is the show. And start the race a little bit later when the sun goes down, so we don't have mid race track prep. Let the crew chiefs and the drivers do their job. That's their job. Hey, figure out this race dirt. Figure out what we're going to do, because you don't see Knoxville Raceway going out in the middle of the show track prep. That's our job. Make the best crew chief, the best team win that can figure this thing out and have the best car.
What is the perfect amount of laps for an A main on a half mile versus a bull ring?
I think bull ring 40, 30 for 30, no more than 30 at a half mile. That way you don't get into. The only situation is if let's say you're at Volusia where the air is negative, you got to pay attention to the lap count because you don't want guys running out. But also, I am big avid not carrying more than 28-gallon of fuel because it's a bomb behind you anyways. And, I guess a bomb going off with 28 or 33, I'm just a big advocate because I know how much the fuel load changes your handling of your car.
And you've been in some accidents, and that's one thing that I didn't touch on earlier. Back when you were racing for Tony and you were chasing that World of Outlaw deal, you got into a deal out at Williams Grove Speedway. And I think it was in hot laps. You took a pretty nasty ride. And talk a little bit about that, because that kind of set you back a little bit for the year also.
Yeah, we were leading the points that year, and a tire spun on the wheel and exploded at the end of the backstretch. And thank God it knocked me out because I don't remember none of it. Jimmy Carr said I was out, and they actually put the blanket over the car because they didn't know what. And Jimmy said he had a hold of my head, and when they cut the roll cage off to get me out, he said I flinched, and that he knew that I was, hopefully that I was going to be all right. But that's the first time in my life, no matter if I was in a fight or wrestling or football, that I ever got knocked out. So I got my eggs scrambled there pretty good. Took me to the hospital, and I knew Tony really good, and he wasn't going to let me drive if he knew that I was beat up. But I had a broken ankle that I wouldn't let put in a cast. I had 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and we kind of hid that from me so he didn't know, so I could go to race the Knoxville Nationals the next couple weeks. And I was all bandaged up, and a lot of people don't know this. I took the lead of the Knoxville Nationals that year and fell out of seat because I was all taped up with my ribs, so I couldn't hold my breath any longer.
They put Johnny Herrera in the car for a little bit after that, too.
Yeah, for the next week.
Is that all it was? Was just 1 week?
Yeah, I think it was like 4 races, but it was like a Friday, Saturday, and a Wednesday or something like that. And I couldn't stand that. No way. No one in my car.
That's my ride.
Yeah.
Johnny Herrera and you have kind of a unique path together in certain ways. You guys both drove for Guy Forbrook.
Yep.
You guys were racing in the same era. Johnny Herrera is a name that you don't ever hear much of, but he was a guy that really did some time too, the hard way, to stay out there.
He did. He had to work hard as well. All of us back in the day had to. We worked on our own cars, did everything. And a lot of the stuff we had to make ourselves. So he knows how hard it is to. He has a team right now. He knows how hard it is.
You talked a little bit about the NSL, the NST, and there was also a deal called the USA in 1989. Those are three different attempts of people to start their own racing series, and they didn't make it for one reason or another. Fred Brownfield getting killed for his deal on the racetrack, not at a sprint car race. So that was the ironic thing about it. So we've got High Limit out there right now too, and I'm not picking sides here. I'm not, because I'm a huge sprint car fan in general. Okay, so the other 3 failed for one reason or another. Just give me, as an honest opinion, what you're seeing right now going on with High Limit that might make them succeed or not succeed.
I think, when I seen that coming about, it's the thing about it that I hate. It split the field up. When you win a World of Outlaw championship, you want to race the best of the best, and there's always going to be an asterisk by your name if you don't, because someone are going to say, "Oh, you did it without all the competition." Well, yeah, you did, but it's still really tough. And Cody Jacobs is doing a great job, with David Gravel. Them guys are tough, eat night in night out now. And Brad Sweet and Eric, they did a phenomenal job. Well, they're 5 in a row, whatever. Now they split it up, so you got half the competition both ways. That's if there's a negative to it. That's the negative I see being a sprint car fan as I am. I want to race the best of the best, and I know at the end of the day, when you're sitting on the porch like I am, you want to say that, hey, I beat the best, and everybody, the best of the best. So I guess that's my opinion on it, if it answers your question.
Right now, sitting here talking to you, Danny, if someone called you up and said, hey, let's race Knoxville Raceway this year, and that's it, could you still get behind the wheel?
Could I or would I?
Let's go with, answer them both.
Could I? Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. Knoxville Raceway, Knoxville only. Let's go. Would I? No, because I still know that if I bust my ass, I'm not going to heal like I did before, and it's not fair to my family.
The only reason I ask is we've had the conversation in the past too, and I know your passion for that.
Yeah.
Who is your biggest on-track rival? And let's think about a whole career here where you actually, did you ever have a guy that you ever had a rivalry with, anything where it's like, this guy's got me irritated?
No, honest to God, Laney, I never let any of that ever bother me. My dad always had the best rule, I thought, from day one. He said, listen, you're going to run into people, they're going to run into you. Never, but never go to their trailer, because if you plan on staying in the sport, you don't want to be known as someone's going to go cause shit somebody's trailer. It's going to come around. So just don't do it and stay to yourself. And then next time, just go out and beat them. And I'm glad he gave me that advice, because I wasn't one to be any of that, and to have a rival. There was always, you had guys that you wanted to be. I wanted to beat Steve Kinsler more than I wanted to breathe, and because he was the best. So that's if that's a rival, I don't think it's a rival. It's just a burning desire that you have to go win at the highest level. And at that time, he was king and still is king.
Donnie Schatz has won numerous Knoxville Nationals. Also, I compare him to you. One thing he's done over the years is he has always given credit to Danny Lasoski for teaching him how to win the Knoxville Nationals. Share a little insight with that about some of the conversations you've had with Donnie.
I have the utmost respect for Donnie, as you will know. I can remember Donnie back in the day when Donnie hit a lot of stuff. When he started, I was going, "Oh my God, where'd this kid come from?" And what? Holy cow! Did he go good? And I can remember him coming up and asking me numerous times, "What? You know?" Now I would regret it, because he's way better than me running the bottom. He has got it down. I mean, he asked me what did I do with my feet and how I did it, and I told him, anything he asked, I was always honest and share with him. And Donnie and I've had a great relationship all through the years, and still do. He's one of the guys that I admire now. His work ethic, everything he's done in life, and he's not done. I mean, right now I know he's going through the deal with the Ford and the Chevrolet, but Donnie Schatz is not done. You better beware. He's not done.
Have you ever had any other people come to you for advice? And then this is kind of a twofold question. Have you had guys come that listen to the advice, and then guys that are just talking?
Both. Guys, listen. For example, my nephew, Brian Brown. Um, I try to teach him, straighten his learning curve out. We talk all the time about there's a certain way in Knoxville restarts, starts, things you do to benefit you, and trying to teach him. I think I've tried harder to teach him to run the bottom the correct way than I have anybody, and he's got so much better at it. But as far as anybody else, I mean, yeah, I'll answer the questions, but I don't volunteer much.
You're not handing out secrets. And these are $100,000 plus secrets sometimes too.
Yeah, it's I don't talk much about that.
Learning to run the bottom in Knoxville yourself. And we keep focused on Knoxville, but you even said it yourself. It's by far the biggest race of the year. It's it's one of the top 3 facilities. We're going to put Eldora and we're going to put Williams Grove and like Todd has done a great job with Huset and Jackson. You've got great tracks out there, but just because you have a great track doesn't mean you have a prestigious event. So
Knoxville is an event. There may be racetracks that pay more money and race, events, but that will always be the capital. Sprint car racing always be the king, right? In Knoxville. And to answer your question, it took me a while to get, pretty good at running the bottom. And you have to do it with patience and understanding that you got to give to receive. And that everybody goes, what are you talking about? Well, you get these young guys that carry the car in there 3 car lengths farther than you do on entry, but you gain 4 on exit. So I'm not really good with math, but it works out way better.
And that learning curve took a while for you?
I had to work at it because, back being a younger guy, you think that, hey, I got bigger balls than anybody. I can carry it in farther than anybody. But a lot of times you had to work harder. And then I got taught at a very young age, if the top is full, you got to go somewhere else. So why not try to make that work? And that's basically how I got onto it. Say I'm gonna make this work, and kept working at it.
Shorter distance around also.
Yes.
The safety of today versus when you guys started. We talked on it a little bit earlier, but there's a lot of things out there right now.
Yeah.
That as a young and upcoming sprint car driver, what advice would you give to them?
Oh, I just think start at the earliest age. I am avid to go on safety, because I don't have a neck, and I couldn't wear a Hans if I wanted to right now because my helmet would sit on it. But get the proper stuff, the proper seats. Make sure you got the inserts that fits your body, because they make the seats and then you put the insert. I mean, today's technology is so much advanced than we had. Because I give these guys that I help now, I said, there's not a one of you guys could sit in our seats that we did back in the day and drive. You'd fall out of the seat in 3 laps. No way. Because all these guys are leaning on their pillows on their head, and it's just, but I give them a hard time. But at the end of the day, I'm so glad that it has come this far. It's saved a lot of lives, and it's going to save a lot of lives.
Would you like to be a tech guy ever out there?
Yes. I'd at some time, I'd love to be a tech guy, and I'd like to be a competition director and not have anybody tell me what to do, when to do, or how to do it. I'd like to try one time just to see what I could do with a traveling series. I got a lot of ideas, put it that way.
The reason I ask about the tech side, listen, it's a ruthless job. Ethan out there with the World of Outlaws, Kenny's with High Limit.
Yeah.
You go to Knoxville and John, right? Yeah. Anyway, what would you look for? And I'm going somewhere with this, but I'm curious what you would look for.
I like to call myself the king of gray because I like the gray area. So I could pretty much look at your race car and know, besides going in and look at and dissect your spark box to see if you have any kind of RPM or traction control or what may have you, but any place else, I can pretty much spot it right off the get-go when it goes through tech.
Would you be a guy that would say, listen, I don't care how you spell your last name, the rules are the rules? Or are we going to look at gray areas? Or
yeah, I think you know me by now. It don't matter what your last name is. You put your pants on just like all of us.
I totally agree with that. So a competition director is different than a tech guy.
Right.
Tell me your aspects about that and why you think that would be cool. And let's put it this way. Let's put it for the first time ever, I think, on Hot Lappin' with Lanman, Danny Lasoski is looking for a potential job as a competition director. Now, it's going to have to...
I'm not looking. I said I would do it. I would think
or you would consider it. And I think you would do an amazing job at it. And here's why, Danny. You're a down-to-earth, objective kind of guy. Mm-hmm. You know what? And you're looking to grow the sport. Mm-hmm. So what intrigues you about that role?
The competition side is because I think if you went in and we'll shake things up a little bit. Like, for example, we've tried the single file restarts, and then the World of Outlaws brought in the double file restarts. Maybe or maybe not. It's run its course. I've seen pros and cons. I've seen the benefits and not the benefits of tearing cars up. Now, what if you brought back in taking off and leaving the leader have an option. I mean, there's a lot of little things that you can do. Let's put the excitement back into the people at home, like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? Or the race car drivers, what's he going to do now? Man, that's what I think needs to have a little more spice in the program.
How about a format? Any thoughts on different formats? Are you content with what they're doing right now?
No, I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but yeah, I am from the era where if you did have fast time, you didn't get to start on the front row of heat. You just didn't. But I do understand why they're taking care of their own, and you got to make sure you got to. I'm gonna do a page out of Emma Hans. You got to have the cream of the crop in the show for the fans to be in the seats.
As a race car driver, you would probably support, let's put the fast guy on the pole. As a race fan, do you look at that differently?
The putting the fast guy on the pole is looking after your followers of your series. That's the way I look at it. I said the format, the way I like Knoxville does it weekly. They do it now where you don't have to run the top 5. They do it by a point system on passing cars, which that's fair. And then I think the highlight now is did it the old all-star format where you race against just your heat race. I see all of those. I mean, it's got its own niche. But to say one's better than the other, nah, I'm not the person to say that yet. But I know if I was in control, there would be a couple of little different deals I would do.
Has the sprint car world priced itself out of new teams coming on board?
I don't think so. Not at all. I mean, you're seeing more and more teams come up forward. You're seeing more father-son teams that the fathers can afford to go in there. You're not seeing as many owners as we did before, and I get that. But no, I don't think they're pricing themselves out at all.
And you can read my mind. That's exactly where I was going. Was I think of Central PA, Central Pennsylvania. They used to be the mecca of car owners, along with the Knoxville area and California. But Pennsylvania was always where it was at. And those car owners we're losing them. We're losing the Al Hamiltons. We had the Weicherts back then, which obviously we're dating ourselves here a little bit, but no one has replaced those. In order to be a successful driver, if you don't, the importance of the family team is probably more now than it ever was.
Couldn't agree more. And I'm an advocate for it. I like the father and son, just like I keep bringing it up, Chris Martin and Richard Martin. And he has 2 boys, so he has 2 teams. So you know what he's up against. But he's doing a great job, and he's bringing them on along, and they've came a long way, and I'm just very proud to be a part of that team.
I understand that, definitely. You're very well prepared, Danny. Let me put it that way. And it's been a lot of fun visiting with you here today. I really appreciate you coming on, opening up about a lot of different things that I dropped on you. And we wish you nothing but the best luck, and we look forward to seeing you down the road at the racetracks. And everybody that wants to get a hold of you one last time, let's get that cell phone number out there for Danny. If you need some consultation or advice and need some help getting your sprint car team organized, get a hold of Danny. And Danny, give me your number again.
314-422-6597.
All right. So thanks again for coming on, Danny. I know that you're a very busy guy, but it was really an honor having you come on and visit with us today.
So tell me, Lanny, do I get to come back on again sometime to Landman?
You do, because you've done a really good job, and there might be times where I'm going to try to put some segments together where we talk to some different guys about a topic.
Mm-hmm.
So I would really enjoy having you on. I appreciate you asking to come back. That means I must not have offended you too bad.
No, we're good. You got the green light, buddy. It'd be my honor to come back on again.
All right. Well, like I said, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule, and we will definitely see you somewhere down the road.
Okay. See you later, pal. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Man, that's some great stuff from Danny Lasoski. He definitely knows how to tell some stories, and he's got a great resume to back it up. So great having Danny with us today. Want to remind everybody, if you can, and would really appreciate it if you could hit the follow button, like button, and the subscribe and share button for me. get everything out. I am on Apple Podcast. I'm on Spotify. I am on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Everything is pretty much Hot Lappin' with Lanman. If you go to any of those broadcast places, you'll be able to find me there. I also want to spend a special thanks out to Krista Strand. Krista has been behind me from day one. She does a lot of my behind the work stuff for me, behind the scenes stuff that I'm still learning how to do, but she's doing a really good job with that. My twin brother, Lonnie Nichols, down in Sioux Falls, has come on. He's given me a lot of great tips and pointers and getting us going in the right direction too, so he's been a huge asset for the podcast. That's going to wrap it up for this week, folks. Look forward to seeing you all again right back here at the same viewing places and listening places you are at. Hope to see you at the racetrack soon. Have a good week, everybody.